The build is finally working. I finally got some decent defensive layers in place. And we are making some good progress moving into maps now, moving into deeper maps, and getting the character more fleshed out. Now we'll talk about that as well as the changes, because there have been a bunch, including but not limited to the aforementioned defensive layers. But if you want to know more about it in written format, what kind of website do you guys prefer? I see a lot of people switching to Mobalytics. Is that the go-to? Is that what the community wants? Let me know in the comments below. I would appreciate that. But otherwise, yes, I will always put some time codes if they're relevant in the description box below. So check that out too. And while you're out there, down there, make sure to hit that like button. I would appreciate it. But yes, Invoker Monk, our charged staff is pretty much the way we do most of our damage. And then we support the clear with 2 heralds, and then the single target with the giant bell. The bell is so incredibly powerful against single target. It melts bosses. If you can get that bell or even a second bell out, because I changed some gems there too, on the single target boss that lasts long enough, or at least stands still long enough, or doesn't force you to move long enough, you can do incredible damage, and then you can stun them and freeze them in a nice combo, and you can pretty much forget most mechanics on a boss fight. The clear is also quite nice. I did use the Falling Thunder ability for a while, but I kind of got frustrated with the lack of power charge generation, because you really do need another source of power charge generation, and I didn't want to sacrifice 2 skill slots just so I could run a cast on something with the ritual, because I don't want to cast it myself, as well as the actual Falling Thunder ability. Instead, we now run simply 5 persistent buffs, 2 of which are offense, the heralds, 2 of which are defense, our new defensive layers, as well as the power charge generation tech with the name escapes me. We'll talk about it in the gem section. It's the one that allows you to generate frenzy charges, and then on the tree we change them into power charges. We have talked about that before. The name escapes me. But yes, the character is starting to feel quite nice in combat. I'm starting to feel a lot more durable. I am still having massive weaknesses in my defense that I don't quite know how to solve as a monk. Of course, the typical damage over time remains a problem. There's not much you can do about that. There's also the AoE hits, because apparently AoE hits you can't dodge now. You can dodge certain spell hits, but you can't dodge AoE hits now. So it's very difficult to deal with giant, repetitive burst AoE hits, unless you can walk out of them. And speaking of walking out of them, I have not been able to find faster boots. I'm still working on 10% movement speed boost, and it's been quite the drag compared to something like 25% movement speed boost, which would have been very, very lovely. However, my defensive layer does make it look like I go faster, because there's like little tufts of air behind me, so, you know, it's like painting yourself red. It's like the color of fire. It means you go faster, right? I believe somebody once said that. But yes, overall though, the character is starting to come together. It's a very easy playstyle. It doesn't require you to have massive amounts of combo buttons, like most people are thinking they have to do. It's essentially just a matter of left-clicking, keeping your buff active, which is very simple to do, even on single target, even if you don't kill, as a result of the tech. So you keep that buff active, and then you're already like kind of a ranged character, and then you can complement that with a ranged attack or a melee attack, so a left click or a right click for me, respectively, Tempest Flurry or Storm Throw. And then if we need AoE, we don't have to think about it, because that's passive due to our heralds. And then we also have the complementary belt drop on single targets that really only happens against bosses. I can't even typically get close enough to most rares now before they either are close enough to death, so it doesn't matter anymore, or they have already perished. And it's only going to get better with crit, because we are an Invoker Monk and we have that crit node, right? The Inquisitor node, I refer to it. The ascendancy that allows us to move past resistances of enemies, at least if they're non-negative. So we don't actually have to worry about penetration, so we can just stack crit chance. Crit chance equals penetration, so to speak, as well as more damage. It's very valuable. Speaking of ascendancy, though, I am about to rage quit ascendancies altogether. I'm still only on 2 ascendancy points, which has been frustrating. The reason why I have more spirit is actually because I found a spirit chest. We'll show it off in just a second, which is the only reason I'm able to run the 2 additional defensive layers, which has been nice. But yeah, it has been an incredibly frustrating experience. I did an ultimatum 7. Apparently that's Ascension 2. I thought it was Ascension 3, so that's a frustrating experience based on the area level. And I have not been able to find a Sanctum 3 again because I keep running into situations where I can't avoid having to take a debuff that ends my run. Like essentially the debuff that say you take X amount of damage after a room completion, so your honor just slowly regresses to 0 and there's nothing you can do about it. It's a very frustrating experience right now, to me at least, to Ascend. I don't like Sanctum. An ultimatum apparently is not possible because I can't find the third one, or it is bugged, and I did do the third one, but I didn't get the point. I don't know exactly what's happening there. But hopefully they will address it, because right now it feels like I'm bashing my head against the wall, and if I enjoy that, then I would actually be bashing my head against the wall. And I'm not doing that because, as you may have guessed, I don't like doing that. So hopefully they will have some moments there of clarity that will address that, at least up until the third point. The fourth one being super hard, I can understand. And it also makes me wonder what's going to be the third Ascension possibility, right? Because we have Sanctum, we have Ultimatum. What's the third one? Is it going to be Blight? I don't think so, but it would be funny. Anyway, let's talk about the actual character. I've yapped enough. And here is my current monk. As you can see, we have some wind dancing around us. Get it? Because it's the wind dancer. Anyway, no MTX as of yet. I don't feel like we have earned that as of this moment. But yeah, we are level 73. We've sorted most of our resistance out. We need a little bit more love on fire. And we definitely need more evasion and more energy shield. And a little bit more life would be very nice. For those who are wondering about what kind of gear I am wielding. Now, once you get enough life and your resistance is sorted, which I'm still working on, all you really need is more evasion, more energy shield, and more crit. And then beyond that, it's basically whatever is nice, like attack speed, which would go a long way for making it feel better. But the reason why we need crit is simply because of the Sunder My Enemies note. And the reason why we want evasion is also because of the and protect me from harm. But also the, of course, obvious Ghost Dance, which then will give us energy shield, which helps us buffer our health, so we also need a little bit of energy shield. There's a lot of ways to support that, but that's kind of the defensive layer right there. Very similar to the Trickster in PoE 1, and I do like the Trickster in PoE 1. It's one of my favorite, if not the current favorite, ascendancy in PoE 1 for me, but, you know, dealer's choice. Having that said, though, let's take a look at the gear a little bit. We have a reasonable staff, as you can see. It is full right now. It has some decent physical damage. It doesn't really have anything beyond that. The accuracy is nice, but if you get enough dexterity, that's not needed either. I would have preferred some attack speed here. I would have preferred some flat elemental, but hey, I'm going to be okay with nearly 400 high-end physical damage, with many improvements yet to go. We still have this mediocre helm. As you can see, it's a little bit of life, a little bit of res, a little bit of evasion. Clearly spaces to go for upward upgrades, but alas, I have not been able to find evasion. I'm looking for evasion energy shield bases mostly, or pure evasion if possible, but they don't drop that often for me. It's always strength-based gear that seems to drop a lot for me. I don't know. I did finally upgrade my Lapis amulet that I had at level 9, like in the previous video, but as you can see, it's not much of an improvement. It does have some fire rest, some crit chance, a little bit of accuracy, a little bit of evasion. I wish I had life here, but, you know, you find what you find, you create what you create. There's not much of a predeterministically crafting gear opportunities that you currently have in the game. Hopefully that will change. We'll see, though. Got a new ring, lots of res right here. Cold res, all res. The implicit is lightning res, a little bit of lightning damage, dexterity. I'm still going to slam some more exalts on it once I get them, but I'm out of exalts. So hopefully I can hit a life. That would be phenomenal. Speaking of things that are, or could have been phenomenal, we have another chaos res here. As you can see, we have some nice resistances, cold and lightning. A little bit of flat evasion, which is nice, but I do miss having some life here that would have been making it perfect. But hey, it is definitely better than I had before. This is the new chest. We have some good life, some nice fire res, as well as a spirit. The rest is just kind of but hey, life, a res, and a spirit on a chest. Very, very nice. Ultimately, I don't want to use spirit gear because of the note on the ascendancy. Lead me through grace. As you can see, hopefully that will be enough. That's what we're going to build around. But alas, first things first, after all. Step 1, make it work. Step 2, make it work better. We have still got the Painter's Servant. I've been looking for a better glove with some nice life, maybe some attack speed, some crit possibly if I'm feeling particularly frisky on a evasion and energy shield base. But this is still, ironically, the best glove I've been able to find, which has been somewhat concerning. But hey, maybe soon. We still have the life belt here, as you can see, a little bit of life, and that is literally it. I have not been able to find a belt with reasonable resistances, which is why I'm not worried about fixing my fire res. I just have to find a good fire res and we're good to go. And the boots, 10% movement speed, some life, some resist. I can't really complain about it. I wish it had more movement speed, but hey, maybe the next one will. I do hate the mana gem in there, but I thought I could move them out back in the day before I got wiser. Because I thought I could replace them. I knew I couldn't take them out and preserve the gem, but I thought I could replace them. Because if I did not do that, I would have done a fire one here, and then my fire would have been even closer to finished, right? But alas. So the gear is mediocre, and we're able to already clear bosses by standing still on them once we freeze and stun them. It's been very, very good. So let's talk a little bit about the gems then. Because a lot of things have changed here. These two don't matter. I'm just using this to kind of like store my gems. But yes, Tempest Flurry is the big one. We now have 4 sockets. As you can see, we're using attack speed with martial tempo, conduction for more shock chance. This is not really necessary. I might replace that, but I don't know with what yet. Maybe some penetration, I don't know. Actually, no, penetration doesn't make any sense because that would go against crit. Maybe there's like some good crit gems I have to look into. I know there's like something like super critical, but that doesn't really matter too much. Maybe there's, I know there are gems that allow you to do more crit, so maybe that's better, but who knows. We also have Inspiration for the mana cost reduction. I did this because I dropped my Clarity to be able to run the extra auras. And then we also have Primal Armament for more weapon elemental damage. We have Storm Wave, our throwing ranged ability, Long Shot with Magnified Effect, which allows it to travel a bit further, which also makes it so that Long Shot is easier to proc. And then we have some Ice Bind, because we do want to do ice damage to make sure we freeze, because that's part of our tech to make power charges happen. We have charge staffs. I am using momentum. I'm still experimenting with this. I might actually switch this to an innervate or something. But yeah, I haven't hated it. But I'm pretty sure there might be a bug with it. But I have to do more testing on that. But yes, for now I'm using momentum. The mandatory perpetual charge allowing me to essentially consume a charge without having to worry about it. There's a weird issue with it that it doesn't always consider it having consumed charges in reference to things such as... Let's see, which one is it? The Power Within, or Energy Shield if consumed power charges. It doesn't always want to consume that, or trigger that when you are dealing with the consumption trigger. It only does it reliably if you actually consume the energy, or the power charge. Then your energy shield will increase and such. But this allows you to sometimes consume it without actually consuming the charge, but it still should count as consuming them, but it doesn't. It's a little weirdness. It doesn't really matter too much, but it's just there. Hopefully they address it. Super critical, that's more crit damage, which allows us to really do some high burst damage. This is one of the main reasons, on top of just the base crit multi, that allows us to kill rares before the bell comes down. Speaking of the bell, I've changed some things around. I have switched to overabundance without the increased AoE, because I'm really only using it on single targets, so I don't really need the AoE. The bell goes up their butt, and then it's game over for them. So we added some rage. And Font of Rage, I'm actually contemplating that I maybe could do Rage Forge as well for more damage. I was using melee, but the problem is that once we convert the bell to elemental damage, the physical scaling mechanics don't function anymore because the damage that the bell does is no longer physical, it's elemental, right? So you want to have some kind of universal kind of scaling damage, or dedicate yourself to a singular element. And we have dedicated ourselves to 2 different elements, ice and lightning, for the power charges. More about that in just a second. We have Wind Dancer, which is nice. It allows us to get some more evasion, which is very good because I explained the defensive layers. Now we have Maim and Culling Strike on it, which are just recommended gems by the game. I don't think this is important. It doesn't increase the actual Wind Dancer requirement, and we have infinite dex gems available anyway, so it doesn't matter. Ghost Dance, this is a mandatory defensive layer. We're using it with Fast Forward. Doesn't improve the cost or heighten the cost, but it does make the Shroud trigger faster, so we get faster charges, which is really nice. If you look at the actual number here, duration between Ghost Shrouds, 2.3, we take it out, 3.3. So it saves you pretty much a second. That is a lot of time, and a lot more charges. Herald of Ice for just the explosions. I'm still using Cold Mastery. Well, I've switched to Cold Mastery. I was talking about that in my previous video, so I finally switched to Cold Mastery. I am, however, still using Blind, because Blind is just a nice debuff. You know, less accuracy, we are evasion-based, you can see how that might work. Herald of Thunder, Lightning Mastery, very similar sense of the Cold Mastery, together with Coursing Current to spread out those shocks, because, I mean, it's nice damage increases, right? As well as a little bit of sustain during mapping, which has been quite nice. I might have to do this with Herald of Ice as well, but maybe like the life version, that could be good. It definitely helps out with just keeping up the tempo and the pace, without actually having to worry, because we're killing everything so easily anyway, so why not benefit from that? And then we have the Combat Frenzy. This is the tech that allows us to generate frenzy charges when we freeze someone once every 5.8 seconds, and then we're using Perfusion to occasionally double the charge, and then we can use that to turn into power charges so we can use our charged staff. And we do that on the tree. So let's talk a little bit about the tree, right? So as you can see, we have made some adjustments. Minor ones. We still only have 2 ascendancy points. My next one is probably going to be lead me through grace if I have a nice body armor. If I don't have a nice body armor, I might temporarily switch to I am the Thunder. I don't think that I Shall Rage is all that worth it. I can also maybe switch into I scatter them to the winds. That could also be interesting. But ultimately, we want to pick up and protect me from harm, so we can actually deal with more damage. Because if you don't die, you do more damage than those who have fallen. But yeah, we're still taking the path that gives us the most evasion max energy shield. We're picking up some attack speed, skill speed, which is very, very nice. A little bit more crit, because we are crit focused. Remember, we are wanting to scale crit damage and crit chance. A little bit of extra damage, chance to shock is just very nice. A little bit of more crit notes, focusing on the crit chance aspect of it all. We have picked up the power within for more crit damage, but also more power charge duration, as well as just more power charges, which enhances the charge staff, makes it last longer, and makes it do a little bit more damage. I actually don't think that this might be worth it, since we don't actually have a secondary spender. So I do have to either switch into a secondary spender, or I can maybe preserve some of these points that I'm currently speccing into. Like I'm working for Lust of Power right now, which seems very, very nice, and actually just move them into straight up defenses, or perhaps more crit notes. I mean, there's like a crit wheel right here. We have some crit over there. There's like the universal elemental notes right here. That might be really, really good to go into. There's the jewel sockets we can pick up if we find nice jewels. There's lightning all over the place. There's frost all over the place. We can pick up a lot of good things, including General Electric. There we go. For more attack speed. Attack speed is going to feel very good as well. Or maybe just attack damage. That's going to be feeling really good. On top of that, or more sustain for mana. We have options, is my point. And it's very difficult to figure out what is needed and what is required until you have the entire build pieced together, right? So yeah, we picked up for now though the power charges. We're working on another power charge here. We have some mana sustain, which is very, very useful, very cheap as well. We picked up some more attack speed. This is the mandatory Keystone Resonance. This allows us to change power charges or frenzy charges into power charges, which is nice next to the crit wheel right here. A lot of value to be had. Deadly Force is really nice too, focusing on crit chance, obviously, whenever possible. Although, I actually seem to have taken crit damage here. So there you go. Dealer's Choice. We did pick up Spectral Ward in anticipation of the Ghost Route we are finally running, as well as a little bit of Shadow Dancing, because I do want to work around having lots of evasion, and having enough evasion after we nerf it with the Ascendancy point for PDR. More max power charges. We have some more crit, focusing on... well, I was going to say focus on crit chance, but there is only crit damage. We have some more stave action. This has been a very game-changing wheel, especially this note down here, one with the storm. It definitely feels good. Since we're still using 2 heralds, I think Coming Calamity is still worth having. Maybe it's time that I try to find a way to tech in fire damage. Is that a thing we can do? Is that a thing we should do? I don't know, maybe. It would make sense, considering then this wheel down here, or up here, should be really, really powerful. Because then if everything is active, that is 90% increased damage. That would be pretty good, I would say. And then on top of that, we have another 50% here. So there would be some value to be had. Who knows? Maybe I should get more spirit and pick that up. I don't know. What kind of ability would I throw out, though? That's another issue. We are running out of space on the skills. What we're not running out of space for is more crit chance, crit damage, stuck through for more base crit, which is very powerful on attacks. As you can see, I have opted for the crit chance as opposed to crit damage. So there is that. I am thinking about picking up a bestial skin right here, which is really nice. We have the enhanced reflexes here as well, which is going to be a lot of value on the tree. Maybe we can use then some extra points to go down to Falcon Technique, because getting more dexterity is going to be very, very valuable. Just stack that all the way to the top and never have to worry about accuracy. There's also some really powerful nodes down here called Escape Velocity for more movement speed as well, but more importantly, the freedom of movement. That's a lot of extra evasion, a lot of modifiers there. And as you can see, we also have some crit damage bonus during Flask Effect, but we're no Pathfinders. There's a lot of valuable things on the tree. It's very difficult to ascertain what is like the most valuable because of all the traveling we have to do too. We also might pick up Killer Instinct, since we do have Energy Shield, and this does feel like a pretty decent amount of damage that we can leverage. Since we, even if we're on low life, we get Energy Shield back, so we can maintain low life longer, but alternatively, we also will have more reliable full life for more increased damage. Or maybe we should just pick up more sustain. My point is, there's a lot of good things to pick up, and it's very difficult to decide right now until I have the entire build. But as you can see, it's just mostly crit, and sorting your resistance out, getting evasion, and Energy Shield in combination with Ghost Route, after doing all your resistances and such. So yeah, it is getting along. It is starting to feel quite like a real character. I just want to be able to find ways to maybe sort out my speed, my sustain a bit more, but we're working on that with the Heralds, presumably through means of adding those on-kill recovering effects. That might be really nice. But also just, I want more movement speed. It's going to make the build feel much better. And I think AoE attacks should be avoided, or on-def effects. Oh my goodness, the on-def effects, they are infuriating. Anyway, hopefully this video gave you some kind of idea on what to do with your own monk. Maybe it gave you some inspiration. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you guys next time. I'm out.